And welcome to another exciting, spellbinding, and I don't know, suspenseful episode of the Investor Guys podcast. I am
Wow.
Kevin Mills. This is Bill Barnett. We
What
are
an intro.
hosts in this journey. Yes. Got to keep them coming back, right? Maybe we should be doing cliffhangers like from now
There
on,
you go.
like a cliffhanger. Our last segment will be a
That's
cliffhanger.
right.
Get them back for the next episode.
Oh,
We've been talking about, and this should keep you coming back, especially this time of our cycle and our market and everything else. We've been talking about we've been talking about what has been going on in our real estate market, um, and strategies to use, things to look out for, things to stay away from.
yeah.
All of these are things that you should be wanting to know if you are planning to be a real estate investor or you want to stay up with real estate investing. I don't know if you've checked out I've got a couple new commercials that I've been throwing into our podcast. One of them says you can start investing today. And this is investorguyspodcast.com. If you aren't investing already, that is true. You can start investing today. As soon as you finish watching our podcast, take this information that we're sharing with you, put it in your little file, watch our other podcast, and put that in your file, and start making phone calls. Start getting out there. You're never going to be a real estate investor unless you start taking those first steps. I have so many people from years ago that are still calling me saying, "Yeah, I'm almost ready to start. I'm almost ready to start." What if you waited 3 years, 4 years, 5 years
Yeah.
to replace the roof on your house, to pay your
You'd
bills,
be wet.
to do anything else? If you are serious about investing in real estate, get off your duff and start making
Yeah.
it happen. If you're afraid of getting started in real estate for something, figure out what that fear is and overcome it. It's the same as any other fear. If you were afraid of bungee jumping and you decided you were going to go bungee jumping and you did it, the same thing. Whatever fear it is you have of getting started with real estate investing, whatever it is that you feel you lack to get started with real estate investing, figure that out, overcome it, and get started. Real estate investing, as Bill will tell you, and anybody else who knows will also tell you, is the single greatest wealth building
Yeah.
investment possibility that is out there. Yes, there are other people who made billions of dollars doing other things like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and others, but you know what? They put their money into real estate. The money that they made doing those things, they put into real estate because that is a significant and solid return. There's even, Bill and I have been talking about churches a lot lately. There is a pseudo church. I wouldn't even call it a church. It is called Church of Scientology. Perhaps you guys have heard of it. Church of Scientology, their strategy is buying real estate. That is what they do with their wealth, with their asset, because they're required by the government to spend the money that they make because they are a nonprofit. They're not allowed to have money on their books as profit. So what they do is they buy real estate. They bank their money on real estate. So if you drive by Scientology buildings in many places. I used to live in California. There's a ton of Scientology buildings in Hollywood and in that area. They're mostly empty because there's just not enough things for them to do there. If you go through Clearwater, Florida, which is the capital of Scientology, they own most of downtown, and most of the buildings are empty. Nothing is done with it. There's security guards in the building, and the whole rest of the building is empty. A lot of the security guards will actually talk to you because they're bored off their rocker. So if you happen to be in Clearwater, tap on the door, find a nice one to talk to, and ask them, who's up in this building? Who do you see in this building? Without getting onto a tangent anymore about Scientology.
Too late.
My point is that real estate is an investment that we should all be looking at.
That's right.
We all know that we want to own our own home versus renting our own home. That same logic holds true for owning real estate and owning real estate investments. Let's talk about what's going on in the market today, because there are a lot. I'm not even saying indicators, because we've seen the indicators for a long time. There's a lot of
value. We tell you about those.
To what we've been saying for the last year and a half, 2 years. Bill and I have been saying, watch, this is going to happen. Watch, this is going to happen. Watch, this is going to happen. And it's happened. And now we have like solid validation to just keep ringing that bell and saying, ding, 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 you're right. And unfortunately, with each one of those dings, we're heading more into an economic slump. Our gas prices are going up, our egg prices are going up, our food prices are going up. Rent prices, for the most part, are going up in most of the country, in 70% of the country. So every time we hear that ding, it's bad for somebody, but it's good for somebody. So you need to be on that good side, which is a real estate investor. Go ahead, Bill. I know you had some stats that you wanted to share.
Yeah, well, it came up in the news again yesterday about, as we continue to enter into a down market and foreclosures go up and up and up, that the major players like BlackRock and Vanguard, who both, by the way, need to be destroyed. They need to be destroyed. We have antitrust laws on our books in this country, and they're paying somebody somewhere because they're being excluded from that, and they own majority interest in major companies, most of the major companies around the country. The reason that we hear these social scores for corporations and how bad that is economically, but they keep pushing it. BlackRock keeps pushing it. Vanguard keeps pushing it. There's another one that's out of Europe. That's the three of them have major controlling interest in every major corporation on the planet. And that's just wrong. We can't handle what's going on or help what's going on with somebody outside the country, but BlackRock and Vanguard need to be dismantled. They are breaking all the antitrust rules. They found a loophole. They've gone after it. We need to have that shut down because they're forcing things to happen and they're doing things that are not good for our country and good for our economy. One of the things that they are pushing and doing is they are buying up homes that are in foreclosures, and the banks that they support, like Chase was the first one to come out and publicly say they're doing this. Chase has set aside $1 billion to buy their own foreclosures that in the past have gone out on the open market. Now, Chase has said, we're going to buy them and we're going to put them in our own portfolio. We're going to spin them off into a subsidiary, a wholly owned subsidiary company. And their projections are that by 2030, less than 7 years from now, 40% of the single family homes in America will be owned by the banks, by BlackRock, by Vanguard, because they're trying to make all of us renters. This is not, I don't care what political side you're on. I don't care if you think, oh, that's conspiracy theory. That's bullshit. They've come out and said it. Chase has come out and said, this is what we're doing. And we're starting with $1 billion. We're setting aside an additional $1 billion. The University of California, the Berkeley Home Office, the University of California has directed 40 billion of their endowment fund be invested into buying single family foreclosures that they are going to turn around and rent. The object of these corporations is to make us all renters. The World Economic Forum guys said, hey, you will own nothing and you'll like it. And this is a major step toward that. And if you think about the projection of we're going to own 40% by 2030, 2030 is a blink and it'll be here. And if they're doing that, they're destroying the American dream. And they're doing it against the will of the people. How do we fight back? We fight back by becoming investors and buying our own properties and telling them to off. And so we're way up on break, and I probably need a break anyway. So.
We are. All right. We'll be back in just a second here, and we'll address some more of those things in just a second. And we are back. And you know what? I want to bring up a really good point. Whether you think it's a conspiracy or not, regardless of what your personal feelings are, and you can tell that Bill has some very strong personal feelings on it. Okay. If companies like Chase are doing it, companies like BlackRock, companies that we know Zillow's doing it, it's been in the news. In fact, it's been in the news that all these companies are doing this.
Yeah.
This is something we know.
This is not secretive stuff.
No. Believe it or not, Amazon is doing the exact same thing. Amazon is buying up single family properties on one of their investment things that they're doing. If it's good for these individuals who have way more resources and way more people poring over numbers and poring over facts and figures and everything else, than we have, isn't it a good idea to take that as a notice that we need to get active? We need to be doing the same thing. A long time ago, I may have told this story to Bill before, but a long time ago, I used to buy futures. I used to buy commodities. And the way I would do that, and this was back before we had all the tools that we have right now. Okay. I would have to sit, we did have internet, and I had like 10 different screens in front of me, not on the computer, but for all these different channels that would have what was going on for, and Bill remembers these days, there were 10 different television channels that you would watch, and they would have real time what was going on with everything from stocks, bonds, commodities, future, everything.
Yep.
I would pay attention to what was being bought and who was buying it, and I would jump on to the same thing. So if Minute Maid was buying up orange futures, I would buy up orange futures, because who knows more about orange futures than companies like Minute Maid? Yeah. If Wendy's and Burger King and McDonald's are buying beef futures, I'm buying beef futures, because who knows more about beef futures than those companies? So I would pay attention to what was going on. I would pay attention to who was buying what, and I would make those same buys. I wouldn't get the exact same deal because it would already start going up. But as soon as I saw what was going on, I would jump into it. And I got to tell you, 99.9% of the time, it paid off. It was a lot of work to sit there for 8 hours a day trying to figure out who's doing what and making a phone call as quickly as you can, or doing a buy order on your computer as quickly as you can. You were stuck in front of a computer. That's why I stopped doing it. It wasn't a life for me. One of the other things that reinforced what I was already doing at the time, which was real estate, because real estate was so much easier. But using that same model, okay, if we're seeing Chase buying up single family homes to rent out, if we're seeing Zillow and other companies buying up single family homes to rent out, as a investor, we can't buy the same volume that they can yet. Maybe that'll change for us. Okay. We can't buy that same volume, but we know what is going on. One of the biggest models, and Bill and I have both been, just in the past year, have been involved with top 10 home builders. One of the biggest home builder models right now is build to rent. They are building properties that they're going to put renters into versus home buyers. This is
whole subdivisions.
Home builders that are building, yes, exactly. Whole subdivisions of just rental homes. And that is a new strategy that is literally blowing up right now, is build to rent. Now, if the top 20 home builders are doing that, and other developers are doing that, and we know that Chase is doing that, and we know that there's a long list of people doing this. Doesn't it make sense that we jump on that bandwagon? Doesn't it make sense that we take advantage of that trend as much as possible? If that trend changes, then we can adjust our strategy later. It probably won't adjust in the next 15 to 20 years. Unfortunately, that's probably where the market is going. A lot of us are going to be out of this business in the next 15 to 20 years. A lot of you who are starting, that's going to be a good 15 or 20 year benchmark for you to start looking for other strategies. Anything to add?
Yeah, and so not only are we seeing these entire subdivisions being built by builders, we're also seeing effectively tiny home subdivisions coming up where they are renting for. There's one pretty close to me that they're 600 to 800 feet. The entire property is 600 to 800 feet. Now, if you live in Manhattan, that you're like, oh yeah, those are nice properties. If you live out in the real world where you have children and grass and stuff, my garage is over 400 feet and I don't have a big garage. It's just a garage. And when you start looking at an entire property being 600 feet and 800 feet, it's just insane. But they're building these pretty doggone fast. And it's preparing to be a part of that 40% by 2030, which is an incredible swing from where we are now. And so when you start looking at what's going on in the economy right now, with the fact that we are in a recession, I don't really care what Washington says. The amount of BS that comes out of DC is unbelievable. I can't even listen to it anymore. They talk about how great the economy is. Well, okay, it's great for you guys because y'all are playing a different game than what America plays. And what we're doing is we're seeing our grocery prices go up. We're seeing our fuel prices go up. We're seeing home prices still go up at the same time that we're seeing a constriction on credit availability. And we're seeing a constriction on the number of homes that can get out there and be bought. Now, the inventory, the home housing inventory might be increasing based on the downturn in the economy, as long as, so we talked about Chase. Well, you got to know that if Chase goes out and they're doing that, then who else is going to do it? B of A is going to do it. Wells Fargo is going to do it. And whoever the other two banks are that make up the big five, they're all going to do that because they all do the same thing anyway. So when one of them steps out and says, we're going to start doing this, the other four will start doing it as well. And how we get involved is there's still going to be a supply of foreclosures that come from small banks, that come from mortgage companies, and that we're still going to be able to buy. Now, we can either flip those or we could turn around and turn those into rental property. The way you beat them at their own game is by participating in the same type of strategy. If they're buying to rent, we're buying to rent. We talk a lot about, and I'm actually going to hold off on this till we get back. And when we get back from the break, I want to talk about the circle of real estate and how it fits into our investment strategies. So hang around. We're going to take a quick commercial break here. We'll be right back with more Investor Guys podcast.
The NSA. we're back, and before Bill jumps into it, I want to give you guys just a couple of numbers here to consider. Okay, we are. This is the first week of August. Okay, we are in the third week of mortgage applications being fewer than the week before. So 3 continuous weeks of dropping mortgage applications in a row. We are also, even though we're towards the middle of the summer, we have summer numbers in. Summer, if you have followed real estate investing, whether you're an investor or not, summer, as anybody who's bought a house knows or sells a house knows, summer is the busiest time in real estate. We have a slower than normal summer this year overall. This is nationwide sales. This isn't Florida sales. This isn't Texas sales. This is overall. We have a slower summer than we have for the last 3 or 4 years. Okay, these are all indicators that say real estate is slowing down. Now, you can choose whether you want to be, I'm going to call you a chicken butt real estate investor, and let these be reasons for you to be afraid to go out and invest. But if you are an intelligent real estate investor, you're looking at these as wake-up calls. Get out there, get as many of these properties as you can. These are opportunities. This means that there are fewer people that you have to compete with out there in the market. This means you're going to have more real estate investors who know what they're doing that you're going to compete with, but you have the general public basically drawing back. They are afraid to buy houses right now. So you're not competing with the general public. That means it's a lot easier because there are fewer investors than there are in the general public. So take these as wake-up calls to get out there and start doing something. I'm going to let Bill get back onto his run.
Well, the circle of real estate, we ended the last segment with the circle of real estate. And so what we're meaning by that, and we're talking about get in their game, meaning that the big banks and the incredibly large investment firms like BlackRock and Vanguard, get into their game. How do we do that? Well, if we're buying foreclosures or we're buying property subject to, we spent the last 2 or 3 shows talking about sub 2. If we're buying property like that, one of the options that we have for that is to turn those into rental property. Now, if you're doing rental, I really prefer the duplex, triplex, quadruplex, dupe strips and quads. I really prefer those and apartment buildings as opposed to taking just a single family house and turning it into a rental property. You can certainly do that. I think you get better economies of scale when you've got multiple units under one roof. And so there, because of that, you can make more profit compared with the amount of money that you've spent. And so we always take a look at what's my cash on cash investment. Okay, what's my return on that? So when I'm looking at that, if I'm going right now and I'm picking up foreclosures to flip, I want to take that flip money and I want to put it into rental property that starts creating more residual income for me. And so I can build the residual. Kevin and I both love doing HUD property, Section 8, or affordable housing. They says for some reason there's a stigmatism for Section 8, so but we still call it Section 8, as most of the people in the real world do. But we like doing those kind of properties because that's a guaranteed payment from the government. That's also a market that's going to continue to increase as the economy continues to go down. And so more and more people are going to need assistance with housing, and more people are going to look at those programs. And HUD's not the only program. We all kind of assume it is. Once you get into that game, you start to see there's some other programs out there as well, but Eden being one of them. But you want to look at, how do I participate in the market? If I can do a flip, and look, I'm going to tell you that if you can do one flip every 6 months, it changes your life. If you're not in the business and you add one flip a year, and the average flip is going to produce 20% profit of the retail price of the property. So if I'm doing one flip and I'm in a median price, around here it's like $375 in the Dallas Fort Worth a little bit less than that. The Metroplex about $375. So if I'm doing one per year, and I'm just at the average. I'm not even doing high-end property. I'm doing property that's right in the middle of the demand. It's right in the middle of the affordability. So if I'm pulling 20% off of that, that's about $76,000. Well, that's a significant raise for anybody. If you're making 300 a year and you come in and you do one flip and that one flip has a profit of 75 on it, then you've had a 25% or so raise. That's a significant addition to your income. Now, and I just pull 300 to show the dramatics of it, because that's not the average wage. Average person in America, I think, is about 68, 65,
I think it's
something like
60s or
that.
70s, yeah.
So even if you say 70, and then I can add one flip to that, and I'm pulling 70 on the one flip, I've doubled my income for that year. I don't want you to quit your job and become a full-time investor. I want you to keep all those benefits, keep that steady income, because it takes away pressure from your investing. And now still go do this and double your income, triple your income, so that you can go out and buy more property, so that you can have, if you choose to have better lifestyle for your family, you can do that. You can pay for your kids' education. You can build up your retirement. All of those things that are benefits from having a higher end income. And just one. One of my mentors in the real estate world was he's still around, but it's a guy named Russ Whitney. Russ retired years ago. And Russ's whole philosophy that he used himself and that he taught was to buy one rental property a year. You buy one property a year for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, you don't have to do any more investing. And all you do is just let the people that are living there continue to pay off your mortgage. And by the time you retire, you got 10 paid for properties, and we're talking about people starting probably
people not as old as us.
not quite our age. And so you got 10 paid for properties. And if they're bringing in $1,000 a month in rent, all you're taking out of that are your taxes and your insurance.
And I want to just put another bug in your ear. If you're working on this, you're not blowing yourself up. You could probably do this as a second job. You
Absolutely.
could realistically do 4 properties a year, 1.25. But let's take that off, and let's say 3. Let's say you did 3 properties in a year. Now, Bill was saying 20%. That's 20% return on your investment. So if you're flipping the properties 3 times using that same investment, in the course of a year, you have made 60% annual return on your investment just doing 3 properties, which you can easily do part-time. Okay.
Yep.
3 properties, that gives you plenty of time to do. It's 4 months a property.
Yeah.
60% annual return on your investment. Where else are you going to find that? And that's just doing flips. That's not even buying a property for investment. That's not using any of these other strategies. That is just doing a simple basic flip, which is how most people, that's how I got started in real estate. That's how 99% probably of everybody who's involved in real estate investing got started in real estate investing, was doing flips. And consider that your first step. I tell people to buy investment real estate. I tell people to start building a portfolio. You can feed that portfolio by doing flips. Take that 60% of found money. That's money that you wouldn't have had last year if you weren't doing flips. Take that 60% and invest it in a portfolio of property that you're going to continue to hold while you continue to do flips. At some point, you're going to say, you know what? I'm making more money part-time doing this than I am full-time with my full-time job, where I have to answer to a boss who's always on my butt about how I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I can quit my job. I can do twice as much, 3 times as much in real estate and make 20 times as much money as I am in my just over broke job. And the pieces will come together for you, but they're never going to come together for you unless you get started. We are up
Amen.
on a break. I know because Bill's giving me that look.
So
He's a
it's
busy
actually
man.
wrap up.
He's a busy man. He's got things to do. What's
That's
that?
actually segment 3.
We're done. Yeah. Well, yeah, we're done. So we're going to give a cliffhanger. So join us next time for more exciting and suspenseful information. And you know what? The way things are going these days, who knows what's going to happen literally in this next week?
Yep.
All kinds of crazy things are going on. We could have another knock up in points. I mean, we could have anything crazy happen. So stay with us. We keep abreast of what is going on because this is what we do. This is our business. This is why we like getting on here and talking about it, because we want to share that information with more people than just each other. Not that I don't like sharing it with Bill, but we want to get it out there. It's not competition. Everybody always says, aren't you afraid that, by getting more people involved in real estate investing, that you're creating more competition? I'm not. I would rather have more educated investors out there to work with me that have non-educated investors who are clueless and didn't know what they're doing, and give real estate investors like ourselves a bad name because they don't know what they're doing. Bill, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely, brother.
Later. Have a great day. The rest of you have a great day. Happy investing. Get on it.
See you now.